Good morning, Dan and Amy. So Mike Rowe was on with Tucker Carlson the other night. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. And
Yeah, was he wearing the hat?
No.
His signature cap?
No, he was sans cap.
Was he wearing pastels? Because I always see him in gray and earthy tones.
I don't recall
Was he
his
wearing
garb.
a cow jacket?
He was not, but he was with Tucker Carlson talking about what he likes to talk about, VOTEC, vocational technical education, as compared to the path that we've decided every child should take, which is to get an undergraduate degree in art history and then see if somebody will pay you to do anything after that, after you've amassed six figures in student loan debt. So it's in the context of $1.3 trillion in student loan debt that's being held right now by Americans, and what our culture says is important versus what may turn out to be important. Mike Rowe on education in America.
The skills gap proves that opportunity alone isn't enough to get people unemployed. Right. And really neither is training. You can have all the opportunity and all the training in the world, but if you don't have an underlying appreciation for the work, if you're not talking about jobs that people affirmatively aspire to, you're going to be pushing the boulder up the hill or tilting at the windmill or whatever self-defeating metaphor makes the most sense to you. It's a sucker's bet. You have to be talking about jobs that are uniformly cared about in order to move the needle.
So you can have a job available, but if no one can do it, the job remains unfilled.
5.6 million jobs exist right now as we're talking. 5.6 million jobs, 75% of which don't require a four-year degree. When people talk about, why the skills gap exists, it's almost, how can it not exist? We took VOTEC out of high school. At the same time, we told an entire generation that their best hope for success was a four-year degree.
Right.
So the most expensive path becomes the best path for the most people. At the same time, all these other jobs, which are linked to this very fundamental form of education, are completely marginalized because we sent a really powerful message. You don't just take vocational technical training out of high schools and that be the end of it. That sets all kinds of dominoes in place, and none of them are pretty, and they all fall down.
So I hate to be political, but we are in Washington. These things don't happen without forces moving them to happen.
And so Mike Rowe is a really thoughtful guy, and it's a very interesting point that he makes. It's a point that we've made on this show with respect to manufacturing, which is what he's largely talking about, the manufacturing sector. Now, the challenge, though, is what the projections for manufacturing employment are over the next decade. Manufacturing looking to shed another 800,000 jobs, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics projections, over the next decade, by 2024, basically, so slightly less than a decade, which would be the lowest level of manufacturing U.S. factory payrolls since the 1940s. And yet, even though manufacturing jobs will decrease by 7%, manufacturing output expected to increase by 21% over the next decade into 2024. So what you have is automation, innovation, and higher productivity spread across a smaller workforce. So how do you reconcile these economic trends and talk about job opportunities as well as education that leads to different job opportunity, that takes you on different job opportunity paths? How do you talk about them intelligently and honestly rather than just kind of demagoguing one sector versus another? To help us with this, we're now joined by newly minted Snapchat billionaire, Scott Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us. Congratulations.
Good morning, and I do not own any Snapchat, by the way.
Oh, nice call, Scott.
He's been
Way to go.
saying that all morning that you're a newly minted millionaire.
I guess it was the opportunity of a lifetime, and I missed it again.
Right. I mean, first Facebook, now this. I know the jobs numbers for February won't come out until next Friday. It's delayed a week just because of a kind of a scheduling thing, matter. Not a big deal, but what about this discussion we're having, and it's being driven by President Trump, about job creation, about the manufacturing sector, about what Mike Rowe is saying about our educational system, but also about what the future of the manufacturing sector looks like for employment?
I've been banging on about this now for about 2 years, and you're exactly right. And whomever the president was going to be this time around, and it happens to be Trump, they've got a very, very difficult job ahead of them because you already mentioned it in the show previously that we're going to innovate. We are going to create wealth in this country. That's absolutely going to happen. But it's only going to happen for the upper 20%. And it's going to displace, with kiosks, with drones, and with robots, the middle part of America, right? And you mentioned the manufacturing jobs on the slide as well. So the people that actually own most of the $1 trillion student loan debt or the $1 trillion auto loan debt are going to be the ones that are going to be taking it on the chin for the innovation and the creation of wealth. So we've got a pretty bad situation here where it doesn't look like there's any real way out right away. Now, number two is I know some liberals will scream about this, and I also would like to see the market kind of take more control of it. But as to your student loans and VOTEC, how about this? How about if we let the market decide what the interest rate is on your loan? For instance, if I go out and I want to get a 4-year degree in technology, the interest rate on that loan is almost zero. But if I want to go out and get a 4-year degree in political science, maybe it's 12%, right? So there can be some reasons to kind of push people in the right direction where we need people and where we don't need. And if you really want to go do it, but it's going to be more expensive.
Well,
so some interesting things out there.
Well, what's the average interest rate right now on student loans?
Say that again?
The average interest rate right now on student loans.
It's low. It's pretty low. I think it's around 2 or 3%. But still, we could start to ratchet up the ones that are. Who's going to go out and get a job with a political science major right now and really be able to pay back their student loans in a reasonable time, even with a low interest rate? I mean, I think we're fooling, and I think Dan said that earlier. So the market needs high tech people. Why don't we start making those loans almost negligible or 0% interest rate loans to push people that way? And make the ones that we, look, you're not really going to have a high degree of success if you want to go be an art history major. And I was an art major, by the way, so, all those people out there that want to tweet and kill me on this, I was an art major. But that's not something that you're going to be able to go back and pay the public back for the loans that you took out. So it's not a perfect idea, but we need to go down that route. Number two, a very interesting thing came up over the last 4 weeks. Yes, we're going to see these kiosks like Wendy's just announced they're going to have kiosks in a lot of their restaurants now. We're going to have robots. We're going to have drones. We're going to have driverless trucks, buses, and cars. But what if we start taxing those things like they were people? Now they're not going to benefit from the public services that taxes go for, but they're a more efficient worker. They're not going to be coming in sick. They're always going to be on time. It's an interesting thought. It was Bill Gates was the one that said it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get some another thing to talk about because these are going to be the changes that we're going to see over the next 2 to 3 years.
Speaking of the market, Trump tweeted about this when the market eclipsed the 21,000 mark, when the Dow eclipsed the 21,000 mark for the first time. And, the kind of presidents and politicians like to do this, take credit for good things that happen on their watch. But how much of the market run of the last 30 days is attributable to the new president?
Well, we got, positive sentiment at a 16-year high, so we've got a big positive mental attitude, but there's going to have to be some sort of proof in the pudding or see the rubber meet the road because you can't go downstairs in the tavern and buy a beer with a positive mental attitude, right? We're going to have to start to see some positive results. We're going to have to start to see results. So we've seen this market create over $3 trillion of valuation in the equity market since he became president, and at his first 30 days, we were up 4%. Hasn't happened since 1945, and we're up probably close to 20% now from the election-late lows. 20%. I mean, this is crazy. So right now, I would say the market's trading on hopium. We're smoking hopium, okay? We're going to have to start to see some of these things get backed up by good economic figures. And you know what? Our GDP missed again this week at 1.9%, so we're not even growing annually at 2% year yet. And we're going to get the jobs numbers next week. But remember, 3 years ago, the average monthly jobs number was around 250 jobs created per month. 2 years ago, it dropped to 225,000. Last year, it was 180,000. So we're on the downhill slide when it comes to putting people back to work on an average basis per month. So we got to keep an eye on that because he's got an aircraft carrier to turn around here. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, your friend and colleague and mine, Jim Urio, who's a CNBC contributor, I sat down with him for our Against the Current series, did a long interview with him this week that you can get at upstream-ideas.com. And he said basically the same thing you said. And the hopium is only going to last so long, as you describe it. That window is going to close. And so if he doesn't get anything done on tax reform, on regulatory rollback that are pro-growth policies by, say, the next 30 to 45 days, much less before the August recess, then you could see the market start to recede. Is that an opinion you share?
Yeah, yes, I do, because we've priced this market to almost perfection, right? So if he disappoints in any three of the things that he really keeps talking about with tax cuts, less regulation, and an infrastructure spending bill, if he disappoints there, we're only going to be able to back up, right? So we've also got other problems, Dan. I mean, the way that the market's been looking at our economy has made the dollar a lot stronger. It's going to hurt our multinationals. They're not going to have as good of earnings, right? So if that's the case, then you're going to start to see those numbers coming in poorer. So there's a lot on the docket here. And we haven't even begun to talk about the rest of the world melting down and making our dollars stronger just by, de facto. So that's going to be another problem. There's a lot of headwinds here, and we are smoking the opium. Everybody's happy right now, but at some point in time, the punch is going to run out.
All right. The cynical cow guy, Scott Shellady. Scott, Fox Business contributor, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good day, guys.
And Amy.
Yeah, I want that coat because tonight's the Blaine Gala, and I wanted to wear the Scott Shellady.
Scott Shellady. Shillelagh is an instrument.
Donna Shillelagh was
cane. Donna Shillelagh.
Shillelagh.
Not Shellady. Not here's the thing about Snapchat. By the way,
jacket?
I'm
Yes.
going to pick it up this weekend. I'll have yours. Don't you fret.
Okay.
Don't you worry about it. Don't you fret. Snapchat. Mike Scott alerted us to the story. St. Francis High School in Mountain View, California. 2012. They made a $15,000 investment in Snapchat. Yesterday, they sold 2/3 of their stock, $25 million, and they still got a third left. $15K investment. 5 years later, $25 million realization. How about it? How about entrepreneurial capitalism?
It's news,